here is, the summary of this slide is, the Gita. So now from all that I've told before, I am pretty sure that I've convinced you that worshipping of the devatas are important because they control certain aspect of the Brahmanda and also your Pindanda. So for you to make that philosophical journey, you need their help, you need their blessings. Without that, you cannot do that, is the view of the Vedas. Krishna or Vedavyasa, on the other hand, seems to indicate something else, but that needs to be taken in concept. So, for example, in the 7th chapter, he says, last verse I've underlined, Devan Devayajo Yanti, Madbhakta Yanti Mamapi. So he says, so the fellows who worship other devatas go to those devalokas, but the ones that worship me come to me. So what does that mean? Does that mean that we should not worship any of the other devatas and we should worship only Vishnu? No, the understanding there is, as stated in Shvetashvatara Upanishad, our goal should be, we want to get rid of liberation, get rid of samsara and go to moksha. The Vedas are very clear. Who is it who can give you liberation and moksha? The Upanishads are clear. They say samsara moksha sthiti bandha hetuhu is that supreme Brahman. He is the one who can give you moksha. Nobody else can give you moksha. So he must be your final destination. But to reach him, you have to use his family. You have to use his family so that you sharpen up your faculties to move towards him. And why that is the case? So he says, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. Whenever there is this thing, I come down to earth. But it is also, we all know that when Krishna comes down, where Vishnu comes down, he doesn't come down alone. He does not come alone. He comes with his family. Please remember that. He comes with his family. I know that there are certain schools of Vaishnavas that somehow seems to ridicule worship of other devatas. I would urge them to consider, please remember, when Vishnu comes down, he comes down with his family. In the Mahabharata, the very first verse, Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. In this very first verse, Vyasa has summarized the key family members who come down with Narayana. Okay, who are these? Naram, that is Sesha. Narottama is Bhima. Devi, Rukmani. Saraswati, Bharati, Draupadi, Vyasam, who is incarnation of Krishna, Vishnu himself, they all come along with him. So at the same time, once his avatara is finished, they go back to him. In fact, the sequence is, if you look at Ramayana and Mahabharata, first all his family members descend on earth first, then he appears. Okay, so his family members is extremely important for him. So my summary slide here is, God should be worshipped along with his family. In the Vedas, they are called Parivara Devatas. Devatas themselves should not be worshipped as Sarvottamas because they cannot give you moksha. If moksha is your desire, you have to worship Devatas so that you reach Krishna and get Sarva, and then you get your moksha. But Devata worship is essential for your spiritual progress because it fine-tunes our faculties. Devatas are in Pindanda because the Vedas tell us they are there because it is God's will. He has instructed them to be in our Indriyas and look after them. So, and in fact, the Devatas themselves perform their function as a form of worship to the Lord. And there are beautiful verses in the Upanishads talking about this. How even seeing Surya is doing yajna when he sees, because he puts that ahuti of the objects into the sense organs called the eyes, and that is how he is doing yajna, is how the Upanishads describe. So Devatas are also performing their worship. So we worship the Devatas to guide us in the right direction to the Supreme. This is exactly the Ratham analogy that I've told you so many times over the last 4 weeks. That is the next slide, Abhijit. So that is, we move on to the next slide. So so this is our situation. So we are this body, we have this chariot, so we need to move to the right direction. We cannot do this ourselves. We can't control anything in this world. Is the fundamental Vedic position. We need our devatas to help us to maintain our bodies so that we move in the right direction. And this is exactly what the Shodashakala Purusha discussion in the Prashna Upanishad is. The 6th question. That is the next slide, the final slide, Abhijit. So this is the whole philosophical discussion of Shodasha Kalapurusha. I always have the Shodasha Kalapurusha on one of my last slides, but I never got time to spend more time on it. But never mind. What basically it says is the Jiva is the 16th entity. It is surrounded by 15 fences, material fences. So the Jiva has to shed the 15 fences, move towards Lakshmi, who is our mother, and she lifts us and gives us to the Father, who is Vishnu. So Lakshmi is our mother who lifts us and gives it to our Father, who is number 18. So the number 18 is a key number in philosophy, and we have discussed this so many times. Couple of new things that I found over the last 1 week when I was looking at it. If you look at 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, which is the essence of Bhagavad Gita, there are 18 verses and 2 Pala verses, but 18 verses again. There are 18 verses, 18 parvas in Mahabharata, 18 chapters in Bhagavad Gita. 15th chapter has got 18 key verses. There are 18 days of Mahabharata battle. There are 18 Akshohinis. There are 18 Puranas. And here is another point that I found recently. In Sabarimala, there are 18 steps to reach Ayyappa. Okay. Now, Ayyappa is a very interesting devata because he does not come in the Vedic pantheon. He somehow doesn't appear in the Vedic pantheon, but still in India, there is a lot of Shraddha and devotion towards Ayyappa. And again, when you look at Ayyappa, the 18 steps is what you need to climb before you reach Vishnu, before you reach Ayyappa. So there are lots of analogies with 18 numbers. So finally, what I want to do is, the mantras that I recite before I start this talk is essentially this. When I say Badram Karanebihi Shruniyama Devaha means, Karana means what? Your ears. Shruniyama means to listen. Badram means auspicious. So what I am praying before I give this talk is, oh God, please make sure that I can use my ears to hear the right things. Let me use my speech to speak the right things. So in that, what I'm saying is, I'm not just saying God, I'm saying, oh Chandra, who is the Abhimani Devata of my ear, please look after my ear, make sure I hear the right things. And I'm praying to Ganesha and saying, oh Ganesha, who is the Abhimani Devata Vakasha, make sure only the right speech, right sounds hit my ear. And that is how the contemplation should be. And that exactly is what Dhruva has done. If you remember Dhruva's story, and again, I usually say that Yo antaha pravisha mama vacha imam. So that is also the same prayer that Dhruva is doing. Oh, when I speak, please make sure, please protect my speech. Oh, Abhimani Devatas, protect my speech. But at the same time, oh, the Antaryami who is inside this, please also make sure I do the right speech. I hear the right things and so on. So that is the summum bonum of what I have tried to convey today is the concept of Abhimani Devatas. Okay. God's parivara is important. Without God's parivara, we cannot make progress. God himself, Krishna himself, Vishnu himself has said in all the scriptures that if you neglect my family, I will be very unhappy. He has made it very clear. If you are doing puja, you do with my family. If you are worshipping me, always worship me with Lakshmi. And if you are worshipping other gods, always worship me as a family member of that. So that is how the Vedic philosophy has always been. So we need to bear this in mind before we become very sectarian about this and get into our own confusions and arguments. So on that note, I would want to finish this talk and say Krishna Pranamastu and take any questions.
HinduKnowledgeAcademy.com will celebrate Vedic culture and present its philosophies to the modern Hindu in an accessible format. Our ancient heritage is our greatest strength. Through preservation and dissemination, together let us spread positivity in the world. Thank you for listening and welcome to Hindu Knowledge Academy.